The strongest person in the room says the least. You ever notice that? The more quiet you are, the more people around you will talk. And they don't know what to say, so they'll talk about you. Oh, but if you're strong, if you're confident, if you know who you are, then you won't need to prove yourself to anybody. And those people, they're trying to impress everybody else. So they're constantly talking, posturing, showing off, saying things to get attention. But it comes from a place of insecurity. It comes from a place of fear. The strongest person in the room doesn't need to prove themselves because they already know who they are. I read this quote by Sun Tzu. He said, "Know your enemy and know yourself." Okay? Now, in the context of war, that makes sense. If you know who you're fighting and you know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, then you can strategize accordingly. But I thought, man, that applies to life too. Like if you don't know yourself, if you don't understand who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, then you're gonna be lost. And not only that, you're gonna be fighting against yourself. You're gonna be going to war with yourself. You ever notice that the loudest wars are fought in silence and most people lose? What do I mean by that? Well, think about it. Let's say you have two people in a relationship, right? And they're fighting. They're arguing all the time. Damn, one day they decide to get a divorce. But during the divorce, they still have to live together. So now they're living together, but they're fighting. But they're not really fighting each other. They're fighting themselves. They're fighting their own demons. 'Cause at that point, when you're getting a divorce, you're realizing who you are, what you want, what you don't want. You're facing yourself. You're looking at yourself. And a lot of people go to war with themselves. And it's in the silence where that war is fought. It's in the silence where you realize who you are. Hey, and it's a dangerous place to be because most people are going to lose that war. Why? Because most people don't know themselves. They're just reacting, okay? And so if you don't know yourself and you're fighting yourself, you're not going to win. And here's the other thing. Most people don't want to fight that war. See? Most people would rather have somebody else tell them who they are. And so what happens is we look for external sources to tell us who we are. We look for a partner to complete us. We look for friends to make us happy, okay? We look for jobs to fulfill us, okay? And when we don't have those things, we blame those things. We blame our spouse. We blame our friends. We blame our job. But a lot of times, it's ourselves we're blaming. It's our own demons we're fighting. It's our own insecurities, our own fears. And so, the strongest person in the room says the least because they know who they are. They've done the work. They've gone to war with themselves, and they've won. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't struggle. That doesn't mean that they don't have issues. Everybody struggles. Everybody has issues. The difference between the strongest person in the room and everybody else is that they're aware of it. They know who they are. They know their weaknesses. They know their flaws. But they've accepted it. They've integrated it. And therefore, they don't try to prove themselves to anybody. They don't need to win an argument. They don't need to win a fight, okay? Don't need to win any external validation because they've already won the most important battle, which is the battle within, okay? So the next time you're in a room full of people, listen to how much they talk. Listen to how much they post. And you'll realize something. The people that are talking the most are the weakest people in the room because they read trying to convince themselves as much as they read trying to convince you. But the strongest person in the room, they know who they are. They don't need to prove anything to anybody. So they're quiet, they're reserved, they speak less, they're confident. And that confidence comes from knowing yourself, accepting yourself, loving yourself, and being at peace with yourself. And that is the strongest quality you can have.